Welcome back to After Hours with your host over here, iDizzy81, and I'm going to go ahead and let my other co-hosts here go ahead and introduce themselves.
Let the lady go first.
Either one of them.
Okay.
Either
Okay.
one. They are. It is so silent. Like we're sitting over here, like, go ahead, speak about
Hey,
yourself.
hey,
And it's like, I don't think so. Not today.
I have manners. The lady goes first.
Okay. Hey everybody, it's Panda. What's up? Excited to be back. I'm good.
The enthusiasm. She's killing it.
And of course, it's me, Dale. I'm just Lord Zero, just chilling, playing some Injustice, and kicking it. That's all.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since we've had After Hours. I think the last time we did have Anchor with us, which was a nice surprise to be able to have him on the show and on air. What's everybody been playing lately?
I've been playing Overwatch as usual.
Per usual, have you been getting those skins?
No, the boxes have not been good to me.
The boxes haven't been good to you. Are they a little bit more rough this time around?
I'm sorry?
Have you done any of them before? Have you done any of them before? Like any of the collection times,
Oh yeah.
like the holiday
And it's
skins
like
and everything?
every single time I don't get very much luck. I mean, I think during the Christmas holiday I got a lot of or well, to me it was a lot of skins. I got maybe 2, but that's a lot to me.
Right.
And but this time around I think I got a Tourborn skin, but I don't think it was part
Do you
of
play as him?
the newer skins.
Is that your main?
But no. Loot boxes, it's just random what you get in them. So it just gives you it for random characters, and usually it's not for the ones that I typically play, unfortunately.
Amen to that.
Right on,
Yeah.
right on.
So, but I've been playing a lot of random, where you get random characters every time you respawn, so that way I can get a feel for every single character in the game. So that way, if someone doesn't want to play a certain type of class, then I can fill in the spot.
Right.
Okay, right on. What about you, Sleep? What have you been playing?
I have been playing Injustice as usual, kind of like Panda. That's my
Yeah,
go-to.
I've seen you've been streaming that quite a bit lately.
Yeah. They just released the Bay Starfire Monday at midnight. And I've kind of been going through the same struggle that Panda has. I've been getting boxes from the multiverse and my guild, and most of my armor has been for Gorilla Grodd, who I don't use ever for anything, and will never use ever for anything. which sucks because when Red Hood came out, I opened like 10, and it was like back to back like Red Hood epics, and it was amazing. And I just don't have that luck anymore, apparently. So it's a struggle bus. Starfire's a damn good character, though. So
how do you enjoy that? Like, I know that you've been streaming that quite a bit lately.
how do you mean? How do I enjoy it?
How are you liking that compared to others? How are you liking it compared to other fighters? Because you're big into the fighter scene, and
Yeah.
I dabble in the fighter scene. I'm not knee deep like how you are. Like, I'll put my toe in because I know I'm not good at it. And then I see all
Fair
these
enough.
people that they'll whip out like joysticks out of their backpack and they plug it all in, and I'm like, this is too hardcore for me. I'm stepping back. Like, I have flashbacks of the arcade, and you know.
Well, I mean, Injustice for me is the. If I'm just gonna be honest, it's so far. I've said it before on here. It's the best fighting game this generation for me, anyways, and I stand behind that strongly. Like for instance, I got Tekken 7, right? The Tekken 7 is good. I've put maybe 2 days of gameplay in it, whereas Injustice is pushing like 20. Just the thing is, they took a lot out of Tekken that like longtime fans I want to say took for granted, but it wasn't really take it for granted. It's stuff you expect for Tekken, and they kind of gutted that out a little bit, which is a big hindrance for me, and I'm just not drawn to play it, which is unfortunate. Sucks.
Right on, right on. As for me, I've been playing. Of course, I'm always on Arc. Definitely, we've gone through some things the last couple of days. Had a server wipe that ended up happening and everything, but it's okay. Been there, done that. You know, we know how to recover.
Such as the Arc life.
It is part of the Arc life. You know, one individual told me, and I'm pretty sure that I say this all the time to people, is, you know, what the Arc gives you, the Arc will take away from you. So anything that you have right now, you know, don't try to hold on to it, because at some point you are not going to have it in your possessions anymore. You know, it's just how the game goes. So I went from being on a main server, and right now we're waiting a little bit. We'll see what the future entails. I've been talking with a few people what we want to do as far as official servers go. We're still thinking about hosting a dedicated as well for people to be able to come play with us and everything. Also in a less aggressive setting and everything, but still allow a little bit of the PvP aspect. So we'll see how all that goes. Aside from that, I've been trolling on an old server and everything. It's pretty fun to go back to some of the old servers that you've been to and see how things have changed, you know, in a manner, so to speak. Especially whenever you recognize some people and they get really nervous when they see your gamer tag pop in and they're like, oh shit. Oh shit. It's like they're shitting bricks over something. I think we took out 2 or 3 little small bases with nothing but bows and arrows, which is, you know, pretty crazy whenever you think about it. Like sitting there for about an hour with a bow and arrow to kill a Bronto, that's patience. That's a lot of patience. I'll have to say. Aside from Arc, I have been dabbling a little bit. I just purchased We Happy Few because if you didn't know, We Happy Few is about to go up in price. It will be going up in price very soon. So right now it is $30. It's under the preview program. Actually, my son booted it up after it popped in. Yeah, a 1.5-year-old booted up the game. And I saw up in the corner, it said 4 out of 5 of the islands, of the sandbox islands, are available to play, which I didn't realize that they were kind of doing that kind of aspect. But it's nice to see that a lot of that's actually going to be popping out. And if they're about to increase in price, I imagine that means that they are about to be releasing the game, which is good to know. Finally, they're getting towards the end of that. But aside from that, I've been playing Bayonetta. It's not my cup of tea. It's not my style of game, but I'm just giving it a go. Let's see how it works. You know, it's pretty interesting. I'll say it's a little bit different than I thought it would be.
Have you unlocked
a little bit more
climax
exciting
mode yet?
Here's what I've felt about Bayonetta so far is the fighting scenes those are really fun. I actually enjoy the fighting scenes, like, or whenever you're like in the middle of doing combos and you can move from one to another and everything. That's a lot of fun, and like trying to do like all the dodging and ducking and all of the attacks and just combining it all together. But the time between those action scenes to the next is really dull and boring. And I guess, you know, because obviously the game was made on older hardware, you know, like a lot of the clipping that goes on, and, you know, it, like you see a hallway that you can't run down because you have the invisible wall there and everything. I was like, what the hell is this? But I had to remember this game came back in the mid 2000s, you know, trying to keep that in mind and everything, you know.
Well, I mean, I've played a lot of Bayonetta. It was one of my favorite games on a 360, actually. But that time in between the verses, as they call them, the combat scenes, is really dull because for some reason, I don't know why, but they couldn't seem to capture the same kind of like atmosphere and attitude that something like Devil May Cry did, for instance. Because even if like with Devil May Cry, in between fights and everything, like the background and everything, it just kind of drew you in, and then you had Dante's smartass making comments and shit, and it made it interesting. Bayonetta just, I mean, she has her moments where she's witty, and she's like a fantastic character. It just doesn't come through all the time, which I feel is it's a missed opportunity. And then silence.
Yeah, I was about to say, it went real quiet.
So, Pan, have you played Bayonetta?
No, I actually was just gonna say I have not personally played Bayonetta, but the only thing I really played on the 360 that I played a lot was Dead or Alive, Soul Calibur. Oh my gosh, Soul Calibur was like hours upon hours of playing for the longest time to get through the tower. And then I wanted to learn every single move that every single character could do, so I did that.
Right.
And then I played a lot of the Silent Hill.
I believe I had technical difficulties. I apologize about that.
You're fine. Now we've got 2 Dizzies in the chat.
We do have 2 Dizzies in the
For
chat.
some
You were
reason.
welcome.
You're welcome, this guy.
But yeah, the only things I played on the 360 were Dead or Alive, Soul Calibur, many hours of Soul Calibur, and the Silent Hill collection.
My wife would sit there for a good 45 minutes to an hour just customizing a character in Soul Calibur. It was kind of ridiculous.
I would sit there for 5. I'm not even exaggerating.
Ridiculous.
A long time. My summer consisted of Soul Calibur.
Jesus.
I played competitively amongst friends. And sometimes in actual competitions.
Oh, nice.
So it got pretty serious for a while.
Kind of in the same token of the competition thing, did anybody happen to see that that article that Frodo shared out about the 2024 Summer Olympics? I believe it's in Paris.
I didn't read it, but I did see it.
Yeah, I didn't read too much into it, but I think that we can kind of grasp the concept of it looks like that they want to start esports into the Olympics, and it looks like on in 2024. What do y'all feel about esports joining the Olympics?
Do it.
What's funny is I was actually thinking about this the other day. I think it was like a week ago or something like that. I was thinking about how it would be so cool if gaming was in the Olympics, because you put hours and hours and hours into getting really good at a game and then building a team and all that good stuff. And we already have Major League Gaming and all that good stuff. So why isn't there an Olympic section for it?
Right.
And honestly, this thought came about because I was like, why did I choose my profession? Like, can I just be like a professional gamer? Just play
I remember
tons of
hearing you
Overwatch
saying that last night. You were talking about that last night. Why can't I just stay home and play Overwatch?
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, if I would like put tons of time into Overwatch, I could be in the Olympics if. That's what I was thinking. I remember saying I could be in the Olympics if I put in enough time. I could do it. But there's no Olympics for gaming. And when I saw that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, my dream!" but not. I mean, not really, but kind of really.
I get where you're coming from.
So what are you thinking about it? Sleep.
I'm all for it. I've never been really vocal about it, but in the back of my mind, I've always thought it's something that should be a thing. Because y'all know, well, maybe not in Panda, but I know I've told you, Dizzy, I like take days off and stuff sometimes from work. Just sit down and watch EVO and ESL and the fighting championships and all that stuff, right?
Right.
Because when you watch guys like Sonic Fox and Honeybee go at it, there's some of they're, as far as injustice goes, the things they can do on that game is incredible, and it blows your mind because Honeybee has his own YouTube channel, and the time that man puts into just practicing and training for a video game is outrageous.
That
Yeah.
was
You know,
me
and
with Soul Calibur.
right, exactly, and I feel like that's a lot of that's a big part of gaming culture that kind of doesn't really get out there too much. Yeah, anybody can really pick up a game and play a game, sure, but to become like something like that, where you're in MLGs or ESLs or Evos and everything, it's a lot of dedication and hard work. It really is, and it would be cool to get that side of gaming out there. The potential.
Okay, yeah. I here's how I kind of feel about it. I'm not against them being there in the Olympics, mainly in the aspect because the way that I see a lot of sports, it's not so much about athletic prowess as it is more so about being the competition it is. There's oftentimes you'll see a sport where the best team doesn't always win, and it doesn't mean that they always win, the championship as it is. It's about the competition aspect at that point. There's plenty of times people could talk all they want to about when the Patriots ran the table was back in 2007, and a lucky wide receiver happened to catch a dud throw against his helmet to keep them alive, or the Giants alive against the Patriots, and they end up winning. I still stand by the fact that I think that if you played it 99 more times, that Giants team is going to lose. They just happen to win that one. So the best don't always win, even in the Olympic thing. But that aside, I mean, you're right. There's a lot of practice that goes into it. It is probably second to chess as far as needing the capability to think ahead.
Yep.
And people don't really think about something like that. And it's just the speed that your brain actually has to be operating at. It's almost unparalleled. The multitasking ability that you have to be able to comprehend as well at that. I mean, people are literally turning themselves into mini computers, right?
Yep.
I do see them having a hard time trying to maintain the image of it, at least in the beginning, because you are going to have a lot of backlash from a lot of individuals who are going to say, keep video games out of my Olympics. They have no spot in here, but they'll also be the first to enjoy whenever, Brazil uses Pikachu as a mascot or Japan uses Mario as a mascot. So it's, and they, of course, they don't say anything then. So I can see the backlash that is going to entail with it. Again, I'm not against it. Just hopefully they know how to word and market it a little bit. Yeah, because if you look over at ESPN, I think that one of the backlashes that's going on right now is that there's a lot of people that they're upset that there are video games that are on there. And again, I think that is because they haven't been able to show how this is actual more competition that you would put up on there. While you're sitting here bitching about it, why are you watching the World Series of Poker kind of deal?
Yeah.
So
well, something I will bring up is hopefully once this happens, this will bring more awareness into why video games require so much extra thought and why it deserves that spot. Because I was actually on a Fox News story when I was in high school about video games, and they interviewed me and my mom, and they asked me how long I play a day and everything, and I was trying to explain to them, I still get everything that I need to done, but video games help with thinking. They help with a lot of things.
Exactly.
And my mom actually told my brother, she told my brother to keep playing video games because he's severely dyslexic, and it improved his thought process. And she saw that
that's
in
actually a very true
his work.
statement that you're saying right there. That's actually from some studies. I don't have them sitting right in front of me, but I know from some of the things that I've been reading, your thinking quick fires a lot quicker. So you're able to make decisions safer and more decisions quicker and easier made for you without less stress put onto you. Whereas somebody who doesn't, chances are they're going to sit there and mull over a decision. Okay, well, what is the outcome going to be if I choose this road or if I choose that road? And people who do play video games, like, I mean, it's almost like because you've seen so many stories and you know how things end and everything like that. It's just like you make that decision. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine. Not only that, but it ended up improving the dexterity in his hands. He was able to write and type better because with the button combinations and everything that he had to press, it ended up helping him write and helping him type because he couldn't type correctly because it was so difficult to look at a keyboard. But after he was able to memorize it without having to look at it, and the controller, the Xbox controller, because he plays on Xbox primarily, learning the buttons combinations and everything without having to look at the controller helped him learn the keyboard and helped him learn how to write.
Right on. So I guess in retrospective, all of us are in agreement that, I mean, it's the next step for gaming and actually something that looks good for the future for the Olympics, especially whenever you get rid of one of the oldest competitions in wrestling, which to me that still blows my mind that they that this is back in Greco-Roman periods that people were wrestling in there. And we're not talking about hitting people with, stone cold stunners and metal chairs, the actual wrestling.
Right.
That. So, I guess if
another hurdle I see, like, getting in the way, not to cut you off, but
you're good.
It's hard to really show, like Pana said, there is a lot of thought and everything that goes into video games, and especially playing them professionally, but it's kind of hard to show that to an audience who doesn't understand that kind of culture, like I said, because, like, let's say that somebody who doesn't really play video games too terribly much is watching a fighting game tournament. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to show them, what iframes are and how you got to space and save your meter and what meter means and how you got to time.
That's probably one thing.
Unbreakables, and
that's the same thing as somebody who doesn't know, like football, like trying to show somebody what football is. If you don't know the rules and regulations, it's probably going to be harder for you to get into it. I think that's going to be the same hurdle for games and everything. But I think that the thing with video games that makes it a little bit easier is there's not a lot of fluctuation outside of the genres, so to speak. Shooters are shooters. If you kill the person, one person's on top, the other person's underneath, and then once they get the grasp of that meter bar, I think that the other ones will be able to catch on. So
right.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely all in agreement. Was it recently? Actually, Lord Zero, if you want to, night, right?
Yes. For a while, it took over my life for a little bit.
tell us the good news for Fortnite. I'll let you start this one.
Fortnite has officially sold over 500,000 copies in its first day, which is ridiculous.
That is good. And that's a game preview. It's a considered preview state, but not considered.
Yeah.
It's a very gray area.
It's weird. Yeah, it's in a weird spot.
Okay, so
as much praise as I gave that game, I wasn't expecting it to do that good. I'll be completely honest with you, but I am over the moon that it did sell. That's fantastic. It's a great game. It deserved it.
Yeah, so that one did 500,000, and then Lawbreakers, what was it? It dropped 60% from the beta as far as its user base.
Yep.
Was it 60?
Yes, sir.
Somewhere around there. It is lower than Battleborn. It is beginning base is lower than what Battleborn's was. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's not good.
Especially for somebody as high profile as Cliffy B. And I love his work. And there's a lot of people who love Gears of War. And a lot of people that remember that he did work on was at the Unreal games. Less than Battleborn. Why?
And I know people are going to say that's only the PC numbers, but let's be honest, that the most of that player base is going to come from PC. The PS4 is not going to boost it up that much. It's just not. PS4 it's not a shoe machine. It never has been.
Yeah. So, do you think that this is just a beginner stump for Lawbreakers, or do you think that it's something that they can come out of?
I don't know. That's hard to say because the thing is, I thought it was just a beginner's issue for Battleborn, for instance, but Battleborn died off quickly, and this is doing a quarter less. Well, only a quarter of what Battleborn was doing. I mean, I guess it's possible to climb out of that hole, but God, it's going to be a lot of work.
Right. And I think that not having it on multiple multiple platforms as far as console goes, I think that does work against them. Right. Like, I hate it sounding so fanboyish whenever I say that I think that if they were to release this on the Xbox, they would have been in safer hands, because you are absolutely correct. I think players on the Xbox are more inclined to grab a shooter than those that are on a PlayStation 4.
Oh, of course. The Xbox has been called the shooter box for years, and that's for a reason.
With the Bro Box, and yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully things will turn around for them, because from what I've heard, it's not a bad game. That it's actually a pretty fun game to play, but I don't know, something happened somewhere that it doesn't have that oomph. Could it be something like Overwatch is really doing that much to the shooter genre, especially in this aspect of the arena shooter?
From my personal opinion, it doesn't have anything to do with Overwatch. Like a month and a half ago, I remember Lawbreaker ads were all over YouTube every time you try to watch anything. And
oh yeah, well, but if you spend the ad revenue, I mean, you can put your ads anywhere you want to.
Yeah, but what the thing is, though, it just, I mean, maybe it's just me personally, it just didn't appeal to me at all. There was nothing that grabbed me. There was nothing that stood out and said, "Hey, play this." You know, it just seemed like
and see, that's
another game.
That's kind of what I said as well. That's why I think that, like, I look at Overwatch, right, and it has a very unique, colorful look, very cartoonesque, if you may, and it's very hard to pull that off as it is, right? Mm-hmm. You look at other games that kind of like entered into that stratosphere, and we bring up Battleborn, and despite it having its differences, the very immediate thing that it was compared to was, Overwatch. And one came out on top, the other one, it subtly, I'm not going to call it failed, but steeply declined over time. And I know the Paladins just released, and on occasion I might catch one or two people like sneaking into there. Just, it looks like that they're just kind of like dabbling with it because it is a free-to-play game.
Yep.
But the majority of the individuals who are playing shooters that are in the arena shooter stratosphere, it seems like that they are very inclined to Overwatch. And so then I look at Lawbreakers, and it looks like that it's trying to almost copy that colorful formula. It's still cartoony, but it's much less cartoony than Overwatch. But I don't know. I just feel that Overwatch has such a strong stranglehold on that specific, that specific genre and niche of a genre at that you're going to have to really try to find a way to break the mold in order to win people over to come and leave what they're doing over there with Overwatch, especially now that they're, getting all these competition leagues. And right now they're running the Overwatch skins for the summer. I know last year they did the Summer Olympics, and it's just...
Yeah, I'd like to get Panda's opinion on this because she is the resident Overwatch expert.
She is the Overwatch expert over here.
My opinion is that I kind of agree with Dizzy, is that since they came in after Overwatch, it kind of wasn't a very great it wasn't very successful. But I mean, whenever I saw the Lawbreakers ads, and then I saw like the Lawbreakers gameplay and everything, I thought it looked cool as hell. Like, I was like, yeah, this is really cool. But then after, watching it for a little while, and I started to realize that with those more simplified, kind of cartoony looking characters and maps and everything in Overwatch, it was a lot more simplified. And in Lawbreakers, they kind of kick it up a notch, and then it's just too much going on. It's too much of a fast-paced game. And Overwatch is a little bit easier to follow, and it's easier to know what you're doing. But in Lawbreakers,
that's such a hard thing too. Because it's not like Overwatch is a slow-paced game, but if you're able to say that you can focus on Overwatch a lot smoother than Lawbreakers, that has to be a lot going on in Lawbreakers at once.
Mm-hmm. It's just in Overwatch, if you're flying fast and running around, like especially with Tracer. So let's take Tracer for example. If you're running around really fast, in a game that has a whole bunch of extra detail and little minute things everywhere, it's easier to see when it's simplified and kind of cartoony than if it were just this crazy massive amount of textures and small little details and everything. Moving that fast it's hard to focus on where you're going and where the people are and all that good stuff. Another thing with Overwatch is that your enemies are highlighted kind of in red. In Lawbreakers, it's really hard to tell your enemies from your teammates. So everything is very easy to kind of tell what you're looking at in Overwatch.
Right. Well, one thing I will say for Overwatch, and I'm not even somebody who really likes it that much, is I went to college for visual communications. I've taken like game art and art major classes and all that kinds of stuff. And the thing that a big part of what draws Overwatch in is, we use cartoony graphics, and that's fine. But what it is Overwatch's visuals are just really clean, and that's the thing. They're clean, they're edgy, and it's precise, and it's good because the screen's not cluttered with a whole bunch of stuff that you don't need.
Right.
Which is fantastic, especially for a faster-paced game. It's one of the things that I enjoy more about Injustice as opposed to Tekken, for instance, because Injustice, it gives you a bigger while you fight. Your screen, it doesn't feel shrunk down, and the visuals just look clean, crisper. And that's something that I feel like Overwatch has miles above what Lawbreakers has, and it's just ideally you're playing those kinds of games for a while at a time. And if you have too much on screen, especially if the visuals are doing it, and from what you say, the gameplay is demanding a lot of you, that it wears down on the player really quickly. And that could be a problem too.
Right. Yeah, if they did something like let's take this is going to be a different game mode, but or a game type rather. But Destiny, like if they did something similar to how Destiny has certain weapon types that make it a little bit less of, I guess, a stressful game or more chaotic game. They have certain
Right.
things that go on weapons that make it a little less chaotic, like seeking missiles on rocket launchers, or um, where not aim assist, but where you have the target that goes on the people after you shoot them or
Oh
after you
yeah,
aim
yeah,
at
I
them.
got you. Hmm.
It might be a little bit easier if they did something similar to that, but with how much they have going on in the game, it's so hard to tell what you're doing or what you're looking at from what
Right.
I can see.
Right on, right on. So, you know, aside from that, like I said, right now Overwatch, it has its little thing going on as far as the skins go. How many have you gotten, Panda?
Um, Possibly one. I'm not even
Possibly
sure
one.
if it's one of the ones that is part of the summer games. I'm not sure,
That bad,
but
huh?
I don't know.
I see that you and Reaper have
I
been
never
playing that
have.
quite a bit lately, so it's always nice to see what you guys are doing there and there. So
Yeah, I
I've
never
yet to
have
turn it
luck
on to
with
go
those
get
loot
one.
boxes.
I think that the last skin that I know that I earned was I got a Halloween skin for Anna.
That's
It's
what I
actually a
got.
pretty badass looking skin. I really like that, and so yeah,
That's the
I'm
only
pretty
one
sure
I
that that's
got.
the last.
Everything else was hero poses.
So
If I may, real
go ahead.
quick, Panda,
Yeah.
how did y'all like the co-streaming? Did y'all enjoy that?
Oh yeah, you guys used the
It
mixer. It was
was
the mixer co-stream, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
yeah. After I knew how to use it, it was pretty easy. Um, it was kind of difficult at first to figure it out because it was
Right.
integrated with the actual system. But I was so used to going into Twitch and being able to edit everything from there, so that's where I kind of got confused. But after I figured it out, it was super easy.
Right.
And if anybody was questioning, you can still stream straight from your Xbox to Twitch and everything. You actually just have to go into the Twitch app. That was actually a question I was wondering the other day, and yeah, sure enough, I had to go boot it up just to find out. So it's nice to see.
Did this cut out again?
Uh-oh.
It's
Hello.
nice to see you too, Des. There you go. Hey.
Hello?
Okay. It had to have been my mic. It's doing something silly. But I was saying, you can still use Twitch. You do have to go in the app, but
Right.
it's kind of crazy to see that, early on, Twitch was one of the bigger supporters for the Xbox One, and even Microsoft on the back end, they gave the Twitch people the abilities to go in and make the best Twitch app possible. And now to see Mixer's now in there with that competition and everything, it's kind of crazy, but it's nice to see that they are supporting both. Crazy to see that we still don't have any YouTube gaming support. Probably won't, but
Yeah.
it's still crazy to see that. But I digress. Was it August 16th? We have a new game coming to the preview program. One that a certain Lord Cognito. We're going to call him Baby Arm. I'm pretty sure that we talked about this before. Conan
Baby Arm.
Exiles is coming to the preview program that day, and they're also releasing its first free expansion, the Something of the North. It's going to add a new biome to it. It's going to add, I think, somewhere around 300 new items, is what they said.
Mhm.
Of course, new mobs to go beat, or ags, or whichever you want to, call them. So that's going to be another survival game that's going to be put on the Xbox One. Is there anybody interested in playing this at all?
I'm gonna give it a shot depending on price.
Depending on
I mean,
price.
shoot.
What do you think? Do you think is it gonna come out at $30, you think? Or 35,
Um,
35, or somewhere around there?
I'd be okay as long as it's not any more than Arc, because I can tell you right now, I'm not gonna put that much time into it.
Okay,
So
yeah.
it needs to be less.
I would have to agree. I can't see them making it more expensive than your typical preview program game.
Right.
I think that $30, maybe 35, will be the sweet point. I think that they need to go with the smaller end, maybe say 30, even as low as $25, just because they are coming so late right after Arc, and Arc releases later on this month. So they're going to have that to go against, and that means that game is completely full. And we'll talk about Arc later, but yeah, I'm vaguely interested in seeing how Conan plays out. I know that it's going to be the pre-boot program. It is going to be buggy. That's the purpose of it. That's why they want you guys to go in there and play the game. And I think that there's been a lot of talk about the game preview lately. And is it hurting or is it helping? And I'm pretty sure that we've had this conversation before. Is Conan going into the preview program on the Xbox One? Is it going to be bad for Conan, or is it going to be good? In your opinion, now I'm going to let y'all speak. In y'all's opinion, and Panda, you go first. Is this better, or is this not as good for it to go into the preview program for the end game for Conan?
I don't know too much about Conan. I just know what
Fair enough.
y'all were talking about, and that's it.
You're honest.
I admire the honesty.
You were honest at least.
Yeah. I read the chat and I was like, oh my goodness. It was a pretty interesting conversation, but it was hilarious.
Hopefully she did not ask Cognito first, because he probably sent her a picture of the baby arm.
Okay.
No.
This is what my character is going to be looking like.
Don't wish that evil upon Panda. Don't do that to her.
I mean, I just know that I'll play it. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know much about the game, but I know a certain detail about the game that was very interesting to talk about. But okay.
All right. What about you, Lord Zero? Is this going to be good for the end game for Conan, or is this going to be against it? Is this going to hurt Conan more than it's going to help it?
No. And this is easy to tell.
Why is that?
For me personally, if they had just released a game, even if it's like a year down the road, and they said, hey, Conan Exiles is out, give me like $60 and you can have it, I wouldn't get it. I wouldn't even think about getting it. It would not be on my radar. I wouldn't care. But because it is coming out in preview and I could buy in at a lower price, and if I do end up liking it, keep it for that lower price, then it's a no-brainer for me to try it, because it is something I am interested in. And those kind of games, it's like a similar situation with Arc, right? I was interested in Arc before it ever came to Xbox, or before it was ever said to come to Xbox, right? And on that opportunity in a heartbeat to see the game grow and make sure that, it's something that I wanted to get into. And the beautiful thing about preview is, if you buy it on a preview program, and even if you don't end up liking the game, right? Like, let's say I buy Conan and I hate it, right? Mm-hmm. Because I got that game at a lower price point, I already own it. And like, let's say they go like a year down the road, for instance, they end up fixing everything and they make it a great game. I still have that game, and I can go back and I can enjoy it, and I can spread, the word that, hey, this game is actually really goddamn good now. So like, growing in the preview program, I don't see it being a bad thing. I mean, if We Happy Few had come out in the condition it was in, it would have died.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Exactly. But because it was in the preview program, it got on its legs, and it's actually having a full release soon, supposedly. You would assume.
You would assume, yeah, absolutely would assume. Yeah, I think I resonate with everything that you were saying, and I 100% agree with all of that. I think that there's a mix between the old head and the old way of thinking versus the new head and the new way of thinking. And especially with the games, as big as these games are getting these days, you know, we're looking at the scale of which the development is actually you're actually having to put into these games to make people want to play them and to be able to compete in the market now. It's continuously expanding. So that means more development. More development means more people, more hands on it means that there's more chance of bugs are happening. And when we get these games upon release, one, they're all dropping day one patches as it is. And even the day one patches aren't covering everything. There's always these bugs that you end up finding, or game breaking things that people still end up buying or like finding, and then they still have to, you know, get the developer to go in, and the developer later on with another patch will end up having to go in over top of it and fix that patch and everything. I don't think that I can remember the last time that there was a bugless game or a very minimal bugged game to the point where it is almost non-existent. Every game that I've played since gaming has had bugs one way or another. Okay, but again, larger scale. You know, if we kick back over to, like, let's look at Rockstar. Okay, Rockstar was able to drop Grand Theft Auto 5, right? And they told you straight up, look, as many people of you that have bought in Grand Theft Auto 5, there is absolutely no way we can release Grand Theft Auto Online right now. And I think what was it, almost 2 weeks, 3 weeks, somewhere around there to a month.
It was wild.
After the release. Yeah, they ended up opening it up. And even at the beginning, they were prepared that so many people are coming through that floodgates that these servers aren't going to handle it. And I think that a lot of people, they didn't grasp that. You know, and that's actually one of the rare occasions that I can actually look at a big developer and I can actually tip my hat to them, because they recognized what was going to happen. You look at all the time, people are complaining about, oh, well, the online capabilities are shit. The servers aren't working, this and that and this and that. But if we go back to the old way of thinking, you pay 10 people to go beta test your game, right? That's 10 people on that server. You release the game and 10,000 people are trying to jump on that server. Okay, there's a huge difference in the amount of traffic. 10,000 people aren't fitting through a single person doorway. You know, it's going to take a lot longer for them because it's a single person doorway, whereas those 10 people, they're able to get in a lot quicker, right? So I think that there's that miscommunication where, oh, well, they pay beta testers to do this and everything. It's like, yeah, in some aspects, there might be a way that people, you know, once upon a time that they could do that. They would pay a beta tester and they could do it. It's a smaller scaled game compared to what they are delivering these days, where now they have open betas because they know you got thousands to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands people trying to play a certain game and everything. So they need people to jump on there and to break everything. You know, I look back at the Titanfall 2, right? Remember, they kept calling it stress testing, right? They said stress testing. This is an old build. We want you to go on there. We want you to break the servers and everything. That was the whole purpose. But the thing that everybody kept going in is they weren't thinking about the servers breaking, right? The game was pretty far ahead at that point, you know. This was a very old version of the game that we were playing. People were bitching about the things that were added into there and the things that were missing from the previous Titanfall, or things that they were promised that they weren't able to access to. They're like, hey, what the fuck? Why don't we have this? When they're like, we want you to stress the servers, right? Because you're not going to be able to entice 10,000 people that like, hey, at 5 o'clock, do you mind if you just log into this IP address and we just need y'all to sit around for a little bit? It's not going to work that way. That's just, it's not how gaming works, you know? And that's why I do appreciate the preview program in this aspect. You're going to get the game that you are already interested in or potentially interested in at a lower rate. You're helping these indie devs, because these are majority indie devs. I don't think that I've seen a major publisher put out anything in a preview state because they have the money to drop to get these games finished a lot quicker and spend money, right? So
Yeah.
it helps a lot of these indie devs to get the game out and to work on what you see so that you can make the best game possible in the preview program at the end. So that's why I look at Conan going into here. I think that in the long run, I believe that Conan will be a better game than if it did not go into the preview program. And I will
absolutely.
stand by that. This is
Yep.
stand.
It comes back to like what you said earlier. It's just a battle of mindsets, really, and we see this all the time in the gaming community. Like for instance, but it's still active to this day, where you have people resistant to, the thought of indie games, for instance, getting as big as they are. There's people who just simply don't want to accept that because it's just not the way things were for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a changing of tides, and as life, as usual in life, some people are accepting and some aren't. That's just beings are.
Right.
So this head button is just going to happen.
So speaking of changing of tides and everything, Lord Zero and I we've had conversation about this. This was it was a pretty lengthy debate because we're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum as far as this goes. So Shadow of War is releasing later on this year, and recently we found out that there are going to be single player microtransactions that are in the game.
Right.
And it seems to have caused a huge uproar among a lot of individuals and everything. Lord Zero, would you care to explain a little bit more of what's going on, and then go ahead and give you your take on it?
I mean, I don't know in particular what they're for, but Frodo told me a little bit about it. But from what I'm getting, it's just purely like single player items, right? Like
from
there's no
what I
multiplayer
understand,
in the game.
So everything that I've seen in there, well, there is a multiplayer aspect. Yes, there is one.
Okay.
I believe that it is kind of like it's kind of like Metal. They said that it's going to be like Metal Gear Solid 5's multiplayer, if that makes any sense. Which I think that you build a keep and that somebody tries to come and attack your keep or something like that. I don't know. I haven't played the multiplayer for Metal Gear Solid 5. Hell, I haven't even played Metal Gear Solid 5. I digress.
Fair enough.
But yes, a lot of single player. It looks like it's going to be things where you can purchase people for your arsenal at random. You can purchase bonus XP and little things like that you can do.
Right.
So we were sitting at opposite ends of the spectrum, mainly on this subject. You're for it. I'm not saying I'm against microtransactions, but I don't like the direction that this one is starting to take, I guess you could say.
My thing is that these microtransactions in particular for Shadow of War, they you're not required to do it to progress in the game, right?
Correct.
I don't see the issue with that. Then now, if they were like, you can only get this kind of orc or uruk if you pay like $15, then yeah, that'd be a problem. That would be an issue. But if it's just like random rolls or chances at armor or something for whatever you want, look, if you want to spend like $5-10 on that, that's on you. You have
Right on.
that, right?
And I think that I get a lot of that. I think that the thing that concerns me is more of the precedence that it might set, because I don't think that everybody that will go in the future and create microtransactions in this kind of manner will do it with dignity. And by what I mean by that is, I think that my concern, because we're not talking about cosmetics, and that's the typical microtransactions you'll see, especially as far as single player goes. You spend $5 and now you can make your guy look like a cartoon version of himself. You can jump around, Mordor with Mickey Mouse now, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about something that typically would be, if it's a multiplayer game, you would have it on the weekend where they give you a bonus XP, or doing whatever it is, or just things you would earn, in which you can, because this kind of looks like Dragon Age, in the multiplayer, where you can earn coins for the chest, or you can purchase the stuff to get the chests themselves straight up, and that's a typical thing. But this is kind of new because this is single player only, right?
Mm-hmm.
My concern is, what happens when the developer, without the dignity, will start to scale the game to tip your hat and kind of hold you to want to purchase because, oh man, I don't want to sit here and do 10,000 battles just to get, the chest that I want to have a chance at. So let me just go ahead and buy some, which is fine and dandy. But what if the previous game, that 10,000 battles was 10 battles? You see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that they might.
I get that
There's
concern.
going to be those developers. Yeah,
of
that's
course,
my concern.
Yeah, no, and I get that you have every right to have that. It should be in the back of every gamer's head. I never said that, that shouldn't be a concern. My thing was, and it's something that Frodo brought up too, is if a developer tries to pull that in a game, then don't support that game. Gamers need to stand up and say, we're not going to deal with that. And
absolutely.
Until they do that, let's just be honest, microtransactions are going to get worse as they go.
I think if this was a new title, it'd be a little bit more difficult to pinpoint if they are doing that. Whereas this is a game that more people, because they're going to be more inclined to buy it, because it's a Lord of the Rings IP, and it's a sequel to a very popular game. So people are already more enticed to go ahead and buy it. So what if WB was the one to immediately pull this out? I mean, people are still doing massive bulk pre-orders and everything. So there's going to be a lot of those individuals who might not, they purchased the game. And like, let's say if Warner Brothers was this person who did it without dignity, imagine the uproar that's going to end up going behind it, but you've already spent your money on it, and some people might be able to get their money back, but the majority of the people won't.
Right.
So to me, that's where my issue. Like, of course, any game, if you're going to put microtransactions in there, as long as they make sense, I'm okay with it. This one, if it were multiplayer, I don't think I would be as bothered. But I'm going to have to hold my reservations on my final judgment of it until I see it in action and see how much it affects the game.
Right.
Obviously, with almost anything and everything. So that's just kind of my take. Panda, did you have any thoughts on microtransactions in a single player game?
I don't know. I can kind of see both arguments. I can kind of see where the concern is, but I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what to say, but I can definitely see both sides. I think you guys covered it pretty well.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like this is a topic we'll have to. Oh, go ahead.
I was saying Lord Cognito brought up a good point. It's like it's also hard for single player games to fund themselves these days because it's a dying genre. Right. Do you think that actually might have? Was Phil Spencer responsible for this because he said that stuff about single player games?
No, he wasn't responsible.
God damn it, Phil!
He was just being realistic. People didn't like that.
I don't know. I mean, I still enjoy some good single player games. Most of the games that I'm like the biggest fan of are single player.
Right.
Like a lot of horror games are single player. That's kind of the whole point. You're by yourself, so you got to be scared.
Yeah, it just single player experiences come down to like how much time and commitment the developers are going to put into something. Like for instance, when you played Outlast 2, it kind of let you down, right?
Oh gosh, yes. Ugh, don't even get me started.
See, that's an unfortunate thing, and people are just like they're losing patience for that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel that with single player games, you have to have that immersion effect. because if you can't feel
Oh, of
yourself
course.
pulled into the game, you're definitely not going to stick around for the ride. That's
Yeah.
why, like, I can see why people like Tomb Raider, because it's a really gorgeous game, and if you're into that kind of thing, but I can't get myself immersed into Tomb Raider and games like that. Like it just doesn't work for me.
You know,
Right.
Cognito brought up another good point. He said that without microtransactions or DLC, there's no incentive to go back.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that if Outlast 2 came out with an expansion that had just the school in it, which I've heard a lot of people say this, but if they had just the school in it, honestly, I would buy it because I would have hope and I would give it a second chance. And I would have
Like-
hope that maybe I didn't waste the time that I wasted on the first of the game.
I agree with you completely. Actually, from the streams that I watched about it on Outlast 2, and actually, I believe I sent you the Angry Joe's review, right? What he said about it. He said,
You mentioned it, and after I started saying all the same things that he was saying, you mentioned it, and I went and watched it, and I was like, oh my gosh, preach it. This guy.
because he was spot on. The school scenes, I mean, they were really the only, like scary and kind of intense part of it. Really, the rest of it was just running around in woods from people who, if they caught you, you died immediately. There wasn't any real fear factor to it, really.
And it was kind of buggy, and it was weird in some parts. I know I sent you a game clip of it, but you would go and you would stand in front of some of the people,
Yeah.
and they just wouldn't do anything. Like, you could touch noses with them and rub elbows, and they would be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was
And
pretty
then
funny.
just like walk past them like 2 steps, they're like, oh my gosh, and then they start like chasing after you.
That's
So
actually
it's
this
the
is
weirdest
really
thing.
nerdy of me to actually bring this part up. Is
Uh-oh.
it's that actually plays a little bit into the psychological effect that you have, especially whenever you're talking about these horror games and the scary games and the vulnerability and what you yourself or us as human beings, we kind of like put into that. Because you're talking about like the school scene that's right here, right? And it's one of the scarier scenes, because whenever a lot of people they sit there and they reflect about childhood, we take children, and those are like, something that we treasure a lot, but we also look at that as it's one of our most vulnerable spots in our lives and everything. As a child, you're still growing and still learning and everything like that, so you're very vulnerable at that spot. That's why, like, you look at a lot of these movies, they use children as the entry point for a lot of these let's say like ghost or demon movies and everything. I remember when I played Silent Hill for the very first time, the most terrifying spot for me the entire game definitely was in the beginning when you're in the school, and it's because of that vulnerability that you kind of like put in with it. It's just, I know it's completely way off subject and everything, but it kind of made me reflect on that a little bit. So,
Well, for me personally, I mean, I'd honestly, to be completely honest, I got maybe halfway through the game, and at this point I was ready to chunk the controller across the room, that I just stopped playing and I watched other people play, and I'm so glad that I did that because I was so done. And
Yeah.
after seeing everything else that happened in it, nothing happened. But
Right.
what's sad is most of the story, it seemed like, was in the school.
Yeah.
And
That too. Yep.
and the other sad part is that maybe 20% of it was in the school. So the rest of the time you're just running around aimlessly. But I wish that,
From what I remember, didn't the game
if they-
actually end off with the climax in the school? Like,
no, actually, it ended with
no?
your lady giving birth to this demon child, and then the
right.
world pretty much ending.
You're right. That was
It was like,
such a weird
it was one of
thing.
those things that you joke about where it's like everyone dies at the end. No, really,
Yeah,
everyone dies at the end.
They actually did that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wish that they would have gone more in depth with the school and took that and ran with it, because there's so many things that they could have done with a cult setting. But
Mhm.
since they didn't do that, I wish that they would have just trashed that, maybe even came out with a later release date and then just did something with the school.
Right.
Because I would have been more happy about that. They would have been like, we thought we were going somewhere, didn't work out. We're going to go with something new that we think you'll like better. And I respect that. So,
Yeah.
like, I would have respected that if they would have gone with that, but they didn't. So, but that being said, if there was a DLC with the school, I would buy it in a heartbeat. Like, I would not hesitate, because I'd be like, I really want to give this a second chance. I was really excited about this game for a long time.
Yeah.
Right on, right on.
I don't know, man. I feel like this is a topic we're gonna have to come back to when Shadow of War is out, because, like you said, we're gonna have to see how it plays out in game. Because if there's like a keep you got to take over and you can only do it with the dagger Goobleblech that you got to pay $10 to get, then that's a problem. Goobleblech.
I really hope that there's a weapon in there called that, so that nobody can pronounce it except for.
How would you spell
except
that?
for
Like
Lord Zero.
Gougbleech.
Goo and then bleh.
Allow us, please, Warner Brothers, allow us to our monolith. Let us name our weapons on there so that Lord Zero can run around without the entire game.
The end credits would just be like Google.
Are either of you
Game.
going to be purchasing? Are you going to be purchasing Shadow of War? Either of you? I'm not.
Oh, of course. I love the first game, man. I absolutely adored the first game. I got the Game of War, the Game of War, the Game of the Year edition, and everything. Man.
Game of War. Did Kate Upton come with it?
Yes. They didn't advertise that. But no, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. I love the first
Lord
game.
Zero is full of great ideas this evening. Now we need Kate Upton to be selling Shadow of War now.
Well, like it. And I enjoyed the base game, and then the extra story DLCs that they ended up coming out with, they were pretty cool too, because it was well, there was actually a few of them they did. You have one where it was like the story of the elf guy's name, whose name I can't, so I'll call him Google Black too, whatever. And that was pretty good.
Right
on. There was another one where it was more of like a hunting kind of thing, which that was pretty damn cool. That was a lot of fun actually. Right on.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm not interested in it. It's just not my cup of tea. Maybe if $5, because I did pick up a Shadow of Mordor for $5 and everything. Maybe down the line I'll consider, but definitely not something I'll get out the gate. So whenever we revisit it, we're gonna look to you for all of this. But one thing that I will be playing that's going to be releasing soon, that I've been playing for quite some time. I don't know if anybody has heard me ever speak about one of my favorite games of all time, but it is called Ark Survival Evolved, being developed by this small studio named Studio Wildcard, not Wildcard Studio. Don't get it twisted. Okay, small studio. They're based all over the world. They got a couple of other ones that are working with them and are developing other things and for other platforms and everything. But that's actually an interesting thing is for Ark Survival Evolved, all of the platforms are being developed by different development teams. So even though the Studio Wildcard, who's mainly working on the PC version, and then they're also working on the Xbox version, they have a studio that's based out of Egypt that is helping them with, I think it's Instinct Games. They're helping with the Xbox version, and I can't remember for the life of me the name of the studio that's working on the PlayStation 4 version of the game.
I couldn't tell you.
They just dropped a couple of updates. It's mainly for the PlayStation 4. We got a lot of last-minute updates are going to be going in. And who here is excited for the ferocious otter?
An otter?
Yeah,
I'm so mad they hyped that up. Oh my lord. The otter dad and then the otter panda.
You don't have enough shoulder pets.
I have to get back. I have to get back on Arc because this is like the best day ever right now. I love Arters. Let's go.
The funniest thing about it is like what was it like the day before when it was like me, Dizzy, and like a bunch of other people on Twitter like it's gonna be Severus and like some new like godly boss, a Kraken or a Hydra, and then they like, oh, here's Otter.
Here's an Otter. Here you go. Here's the Otter. It's like the Otter. The Otter was a prehistoric beast. Please, I hope that it was at least.
I don't know.
Why? Out of all the things, an otter. It is such an oddity.
You know what I think would be like the coolest thing if you had like a chameleon thing that would change colors. Like
that'd be neat, actually.
And then,
but I think that fits with the scape of the game. But
yeah.
we're talking about an otter.
I understand. Otter? Yeah, an otter. Yeah, I mean, I kind of had, I don't know. I don't know why they couldn't just go with like a really cool thing like a chameleon that you could ride as a mount, like an oversized one or something that you could ride as a mount, and then it would help you hide from other dinosaurs so they wouldn't spot you or something. That would be the coolest thing ever. But
it is come with its perks.
Otters are pretty cute, guys. I mean,
yeah, from what it looks like, they look like they're going to be cute and cuddly, and they're going to give you black pearls or a chance at black pearls, and they're going to collect silica pearls for you, which is also kind of odd because they had just recently updated the anglerfish, which now collects pearls as well. And oh my God, do they collect pearls? They collect a lot of pearls. So if you need to make electronics, the anglerfish in the water is the way to go. I digress. An otter, guys, an otter. Aside from that,
my thing is just the way they hyped it up is what got to be because Jam was all like, we're gonna release our last Dino dossier before the official release and all this. It turned out to be
exactly
the
hype
like
was right behind that. Yes, some would say worse because this affects everybody, not just a handful. Yeah, but they did also show that despite for the longest time everybody thought that this was dead, the Phoenix is coming back, and it will be releasing as well.
True. Yeah, on the release date, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that it looks like another shoulder pet as well, but I've seen some people say that it might be a actual mount, which is kind of odd because I would not want to be flying a bird that's on fire, nor do I want it on my shoulder.
I think it will be an actual mount because they had you can look it up on YouTube.
Nor would I want it to turn into ashes and then you fall to the ground and then it'd be like, hey, I'm a baby again.
I'm curious if this is
going to be a
something...
cool mechanic though.
That's what I was thinking myself.
Actually, it would be if it was a shoulder mount, but not if you're riding it.
But I could also see if that were the case, I could see it being a huge issue, especially for the PvP aspect of if you keep killing this fucking bird and it keeps coming alive, which I guess is not any different than what's going on right now. Because if you haven't been aware, especially the Xbox version is rampant from duping. And actually, I have a video in mind that I kind of wanted to run. And I hate doing it because I do have to call out the devs on some of the things that we've seen. Which recently they put a level cap. The level cap is supposed to be 450 for dinos, but there's still dinos out there that are running at 460. I don't know if anybody saw that they had a developer actually go into the official servers, and they spawned in like godly level, high godly level dinos. I'm not talking about like, a couple hundred. I'm talking about they had 80,000 level Rexes that were spawned in for these individuals, which ended up doing, a stupid amount of the damage and all of the stats that go along with it. They did that for Rexes and Gigas and Quetzals and everything. And their way of erasing that, because I mean, as soon as people caught on, they were like, oh shit, we need some of these, you know, and so people were making their trades and everything, and then they knew that the developers were going to catch on. So what they did is they would take lower levels. So if you have a level 2000 giga, you go get yourself a level 5 giga, and you make them together, right? And so it's going to compound that level, and it's going to lower the level so you don't look as conspicuous. But what they did not take into consideration was those stats from that higher level being passed on to the lower level. Now, the way that stats work is each dino, no matter its level, has a base stat, right? And with that base stat, it is multiplied by whatever the stat is, and that's the stat that you're going to see over there. So you'll see somebody say that this is a 575 melee damage Rex. That means that the base stat is multiplied by 575 times, right? So it doesn't matter if your Giga is level 1 or 100. The base damage is the same. The only thing that will affect that is that melee damage percentile that goes onto there. So if you take those high level ones and they happen to put that high level melee onto the lower level, that lower level will do just as much damage as the higher level, right? So if we're along that aspect, anything that is under 450 got erased or was supposed to be erased. And right now people are saying don't level up past 449 because the second you hit 450, your dino goes poof. And that's been happening to people, which is crazy to see that, right? We see all this going on. Now we got these God Rexes that are lower level with God stats on them. You know, and it's just crazy what's going on with the officials. So I could see the Phoenix being an issue if that's how they, you kill it and then it comes back alive, and then it's like, oh well, shit, how do I actually kill it?
I don't know. Just make it a process. Like I'm not saying make it so like the ashes fall down to the ground and then like 2 seconds later the Phoenix is like, I'm back. You know, don't do that. But, you know, maybe there's steps you got to take to, bring it back. Maybe you got to help it in some kind of way.
Resurrect your dinos, or I could see that. I could see that. Yeah. But it does release at the end of the month. Is anybody else excited about the release?
Oh yeah,
I am.
obviously.
I haven't played much lately, but I mean, the times that I did play, I couldn't stop.
Right. It's a drug.
Right on. It is a very addicting one, and my tribe recently was wiped from one of our main servers. We do have other servers that we're able to go play on. I think the majority of everybody is just taking a break.
I'm excited for otters.
Yeah, otters. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really excited, though. I really do. I want to get on the. Oh, I want to tame a griffin, man. I'm excited for that.
Oh, griffin, yes. I do like the thing that they are doing is that each server or each map so far, aside from the center map, all have their specific dinos that you can only get on that that map. So the otter, you can only get the otter on the island. The Phoenix, it looks like the Phoenix is only going to be available on Scorched Earth. Because I believe all of the dinos that are on Scorched Earth will be available on Ragnarok. If you look at Ragnarok's going to have the Griffins. That does leave the center map out, which I'm actually okay with it, because if I could get rid of one of the maps out of all 4 of those, I think I'd get rid of the center map. There's a lot of cool things with the center map, but every time that I'm in there, I feel that it's so gimmicky. And the reason why I say that is I look at the way that the servers are ran that, have multiple people that are on there. If you're a single player person, you probably don't notice it as much. But for somebody like, especially in the competition retrospective for PvP, you look at all of the metal, it's compounded into certain areas, and there's a lot of it in certain areas. Whereas if you look at the island map, it seems like that there are certain areas, but the areas make sense of where the metal would be at. Top of mountains,
right,
or in dangerous areas, right? That it's not the same way for the center map. The center map has it on almost every plateau, almost every nook and cranny and everything, and there's a lot of it. It's not just a couple here and there. Whereas if you look at on the island, if you look down south, those mountains have less metal than the ones that are up north because it's less dangerous. So if you take that into perspective, I look at the center map and I see that there's a lot of gimmicky stuff with it, and it's just kind of odd that the way that is. If I could get rid of one map, it definitely would be the center. But I definitely am excited for Arc to release. The new servers have come out, and like I said, we're considering starting a server for something that we will talk about this in the future, because after hours we'll have a huge announcement. I do believe that all of us that are on the panel will be part of this move that's happening. I can't speak yet on it, but stay tuned. I will say stay tuned.
You know what? The center has over the island and the rest of them, though?
What is that?
The badass thunderstorms.
Yes, it does, but I think I like this. I like Scorch and their storms better because it actually affects the environment.
Yeah, true. But the lightning strikes and the sounds and the light and everything. Oh, it's so good.
Which I have noticed. If you haven't been on the island map recently or in the last couple of weeks or a couple of months, I don't know what update it was, but they implemented a weather system on the island as well. There are times when you can actually get a heat wave on the island. It's not to the heat index that you would have on scorched earth, but you'll notice that the sky kind of looks a little bit more orangey and hazy, and you'll notice that the temperature drastically increases. And I mean, it affects the entire map, just depending on where you're at. Or it could go the opposite way, and it could be a very cold thing. You do have two sets of rains. There is a standard rain, and then there is a downpour rain. And I only know this because talking with some of my tribe mates, we were kind of confused about how some of them are a little bit different than the others whenever it rains, despite it raining, right? And so the downpour rain, it is almost impossible for you to do anything. And Lord forbid if you get fog in the middle of that rain. With the other rain, you can actually work and still do a little bit of your stuff, but of course the fog will interfere with you. Fog definitely for the island is bar none the worst. But I respect it. Really is. I just wish that they would get the concept that you're not going to get fog in the water. So Wildcard, do something about that. If I'm in the water, I don't need fog.
Fair enough.
So does any last words from anybody before we hop on out of here? I think we've been running quite a bit of time. We had a lot of subjects and a lot of subject matter.
Yes. I can't.
We're all good.
Yeah, I can't really think of nothing.
When are the next streams going on for everybody?
I won't be doing any tomorrow. Tomorrow's my wife's birthday. Probably Friday.
Friday. Okay. When are y'all's scheduled? Do you guys have scheduled times that you do it, or you have a time that you try to stick to?
I don't.
I'm gonna try to make Mondays, I think, but I have to work that out. It's not
right on.
Solid.
So here's what we're gonna do with our outros. I want y'all to give all of your social medias and whichever streaming service you're using and when about you're typically streaming. We're gonna start doing this in the future and everything, so that everybody kind of gets used to it. So, Panda, I don't know if you want to go ahead and lead the way.
Yeah. My Twitter is FSPanda, FTW, or Fun Size Panda for the win. Same thing on my Xbox Live. And then I streamed on Mixer once. I probably only use that for co-streaming. I'm primarily on Twitch, and on Twitch it's just the same thing. FS Panda FTW. I can't really make a set time that I can stream, but I will definitely post on my Twitter when I start to stream. Usually I only stream Overwatch, so if you're into Overwatch, that's what I'm streaming.
Right on.
Right on. Well,
And-
you could get at me at Lord Zero ILP on everything. Literally from the Xbox to Twitter to Mixer, all the same thing.
Which is really good. It makes a lot of convenience.
Yeah, which is why I went about that route. But I stream a lot actually, just randomly. So I'm trying to condense it all into like a set time. Hopefully, that's the goal
Right.
anyway. But I do a lot of co-streams usually with my my goofy ass brother, and we stream Friday the 13th sometimes. Sometimes he'll play that, and I'll play Injustice, or we'll play something like Fortnite, or God knows whatever. We just goof off on a lot of things. So
All
yeah.
right. And of course, I am iDizzy81 across the platforms. If you go to Twitter, Twitch, Mixer, you'll find it across all of that, and then of course here on YouTube and everything. I don't stream typically. I prefer not to have SWAT teams banging down my door and shooting my dogs up, so I kind of avoid all of that, and that's my that's become a phobia for me. But I digress. I've been uploading quite a bit to YouTube, so if you want to follow me here on YouTube at iDizzy81, I've been sharing a lot of Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say real quick. Like, is there anything about like TV shows or movies we've been watching? We usually cover that on here. Has anything come out?
That's actually a good question. We actually didn't talk about that. Of course, there was the latest Game of Thrones, which is being heralded as one of the entire show. One of, not the best, but one of the best.
Cool beans.
So I think that's about it.
It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Dragon Ball's been getting kind of crazy.
I mean, I have to
That's pretty dope.
I have to go back and watch it again. But
Right.
I saw all of it pretty much. I just fell asleep like for 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes I have to go back and watch. But
Right, but no spoilers. You're not allowed to give spoilers for Game of Thrones.
yeah, no spoilers.
We'll have
I'm
people
not gonna
pitchforks
spoil.
and torches at our doors.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually at my job today, one of the girls started talking about it, and I'd already watched it, but my goodness, she said something that was just absolutely terrible to say, and I was like, "What are you? Stop!"
So Diz, do you want to touch on the aforementioned Dark Tower versus Planet of the Apes thing?
This will be my outro because we definitely do want to wrap it up and everything. Again, follow me on YouTube. But yes, I do like that you mentioned that. If you will kindly, after this show, go to Rotten Tomatoes and see that the movie of the summer is The War for the Planet of the Apes, with one of the highest Rotten Tomato scores. And despite a Reaper telling me that it would be otherwise, and that would be The Dark Tower, who is sitting at a strong 16%, just a percent higher than the acclaimed latest Transformers movie, that is at a 15%. Still did pretty decent, I guess you could say, box office wise. Thank you to a good Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba. But still is no match for my man Caesar over there for the War of the Planet of the Apes. And that is After Hours. We will catch you next week. Thank y'all. Good night.
Bye.